Welcome to Lore Whispered, where myths, epics, and folktales come alive in whispers of the past. In the beginning, from chaos rose Gaia, Mother Earth, and Uranus, the sky. From them came the mighty Titans, and at last Zeus and the gods of Olympus. A realm of immortal beings, epic battles, and timeless legends. Welcome to Lore Whispered, Greek mythology. After the tragedy of Oedipus, the brave king who could not escape his destiny, the whole of Greece fell into contemplation. The gods remained silent upon Olympus, but mortals began to wonder. Is fate unchangeable? Or are there those who dare to defy destiny, and succeed? The answer would come, through a new kind of hero. A young man not cursed like Oedipus, but burdened with an impossible mission. A journey across treacherous seas, facing monsters, trials from the gods. A quest that would gather the greatest heroes of the age. His name is Jason. And his story would ignite the greatest expedition in all of Greek mythology. Yet, before he became a legend, Jason was just a child, robbed of his throne, forced to live in hiding. Waiting for the day destiny would call his name. Before Jason was born, his destiny was already entangled with power and betrayal. In the kingdom of Iolcus, there ruled a noble king named Eson, a just and kind-hearted ruler. His people loved him. His throne was secure. Until his ambitious half-brother, Peleus, driven by greed and fear of prophecy, seized the throne in a sudden coup. Peleus had heard an oracle. Beware the man who comes wearing one sandal. He will be the one who brings your downfall. Terrified of losing power, Peleus imprisoned Eson and swore to destroy any future heir. But Eson, desperate to save his newborn son, risked everything. He handed the baby to a loyal servant and whispered, "Take him away. Hide him. Let him live, even if I cannot." The infant was carried through secret tunnels, escaped the palace, and vanished into the mountains. There, he was entrusted to Chiron, the wise immortal centaur who had trained many heroes, Achilles, Asclepius, Heracles, and now, Jason. Under Chiron's care, Jason grew strong in body and mind. He learned the art of combat, music, healing, strategy, and leadership. But most of all, he learned virtue, honor, compassion, courage. He did not know he was born to be king. He did not know his father still lived in chains. But deep within his heart burned a quiet fire, a sense that he was meant for more. One day, Chiron spoke. "Jason, there will come a time when you must face your fate. When that day comes, do not fear destiny. Shape it." Years passed, and Jason grew into a strong, noble young man, brave, intelligent, and compassionate. One morning, Chiron stood silently at the edge of the forest, as if listening to the wind. "Jason," the centaur said, "the time has come. Go down from this mountain. Seek your destiny in Iolcus." Jason nodded. He did not yet know the truth, but he trusted Chiron. With only a spear in hand and courage in his heart, he began his journey. On his path, he reached a wild river swollen with rain, its fierce current roaring like thunder. An old woman stood by the riverbank, trembling, unable to cross. "Please," she whispered, "will you help me?" Jason did not hesitate. He lifted her gently onto his shoulders and stepped into the raging waters. The current was strong. The mud was deep. But Jason held firm, step by step. By the time he reached the other side, one of his sandals had been swept away. He set the old woman down, but she was no longer old. Before him stood Hera, queen of the gods, radiating power and majesty. Jason fell to one knee in awe. "Why would the queen of Olympus disguise herself?" he asked. Hera smiled. "Because true heroes reveal themselves not in battle, but in kindness. Jason, you have passed my test. I will be watching over you." With that, she vanished in swirling light. Jason stood alone, but not afraid. He walked on, wearing only one sandal. When he finally entered the city of Iolcus, people stopped and stared. A stranger, strong and confident, with one sandal. Word spread like wildfire. And when King Peleus heard the news, his blood ran cold. The prophecy. The man with one sandal has arrived. Jason entered the grand hall of Iolcus, where King Peleus sat upon the stolen throne, Jason's rightful throne. The courtiers whispered. Some saw a hero. Others felt fate stirring in the air. Peleus narrowed his eyes. Stranger, he said coldly, who are you to walk into my kingdom with such confidence? Jason stood tall, his voice calm and steady. I am Jason, son of Ezin, rightful heir to Iolcus. I have come to reclaim my father's throne. The hall exploded into murmurs. Ezin's son? Alive? Returned? Peleus forced a smile, hiding the fear in his heart. He could not kill Jason, not openly. The gods might punish him. Instead, he thought of a clever, deadly trick. My dear nephew, Peleus said falsely, if you wish to rule this land, prove your worth. There is a treasure of immeasurable power, the Golden Fleece. Bring it to me, and the throne is yours. The court gasped. The Golden Fleece lay in the distant land of Colchis, guarded by a fire-breathing dragon and protected by powerful magic. No man had ever survived the journey. It was a death sentence dressed as an honor. But Jason did not flinch. I accept. Peleus was stunned. He had expected fear, hesitation, anything but courage. Jason continued. I will gather the greatest heroes of our age. We will sail across the sea. And I will return with the Golden Fleece. For the first time in years, hope stirred in the hearts of the people. Whispers spread across Greece. A great quest is about to begin. Jason's declaration spread like wildfire across the land. A hero seeks the Golden Fleece. A legendary voyage will begin. Who dares to join him? And so, the greatest heroes of the age answered the call. They came from every corner of Greece, each with a name that would echo through eternity. The heroes arrive. 1. Heracles, Hercules, the strongest man alive, beloved by the gods. 2. Orpheus, the divine musician whose voice could charm even stones and beasts. 3. Castor and Pollux, twin brothers, one mortal, one divine, unmatched in combat. 4. Atalanta, the swift huntress, the only woman allowed on the quest, faster than any man. 5. Theseus, future slayer of the Minotaur, fierce and noble. 6. Peleus, father of Achilles, warrior of destiny. 7. Argus, the master shipbuilder who would create a vessel worthy of legends. 8. And many more, archers, healers, navigators, demigods, princes, and adventurers. They did not come for gold. They did not come for glory. They came because this quest would define an era. And they wanted to stand at the heart of history. To carry these heroes, Argus built a mighty ship, the Argo, sleek, powerful, crafted from sacred oak taken from the talking forests of Dodona, blessed by Zeus himself. In its bow, the wood still whispered with divine prophecy. When the ship was complete, the heroes gathered on the shore. Jason stepped forward and raised his hand. From this day on, we are brothers and sisters in arms. We sail not for one man, but for all of Greece. Let the world remember our name. We are the Argonauts. A thunder rolled in the sky, Zeus had heard. And in that moment, the first great team of heroes in Greek mythology was born. The morning of departure arrived. The sea was calm, too calm. Waves barely whispered against the shore as if the world itself was holding its breath. The Argonauts stood on the sand, gazing at the horizon. Beyond lay mysteries, monsters, gods, and destiny. Jason stepped forward, placed his hand on the sacred bow of the Argo, and whispered a prayer. Suddenly, the ship spoke. A low, melodic voice, like the wind through ancient trees, echoed from the oak of Dodona. Sail, brave ones. The gods are watching. The heroes exchanged glances. This was real. The world of mortals and the realm of the divine were now intertwined. Before boarding, each hero paused to face their homeland one last time. Heracles stood tall, fearless as ever. Orpheus closed his eyes, listening to the heartbeat of the sea. Atalanta tightened her bowstring, ready for whatever came. Jason looked at Iolcus, his birthright, his pain, his purpose. He whispered, "I will return with the fleece, or not at all." Then, with steady steps, he climbed aboard the Argo. One by one, the Argonauts followed. With a mighty heave, the strongest among them pushed the ship into the sea. The oars dipped into the water in perfect rhythm, dozens of heroes rowing as one. The wind caught the sails. The ship surged forward, cutting through the waves like a blade of destiny. And standing at the helm, eyes on the horizon, Jason felt it. History had begun. High in Olympus, the gods observed in silence. Hera, queen of the gods, smiled. She had chosen Jason as her champion. Zeus thundered, not in anger, but in warning. Athena guided the winds, intrigued by the bravery of mortals. Poseidon stirred beneath the waves, curious. Would these mortals survive his seas? Or drown in fate? As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sea changed. Dark clouds gathered far in the distance. Orpheus felt a chill. Heracles gripped his club. Even Jason hesitated. The Argo creaked, as if the spirits within the wood could sense what awaited. Monsters. Tempests. Betrayal. Magic. Gods. This was no simple journey. This was a trial of souls. And yet, none turned back. The Argo sailed smoothly for days, guided by calm winds and clear skies. The heroes relaxed, believing the journey would be easier than they thought. They were wrong. On the horizon appeared a lush, beautiful island, green hills, blooming flowers, soft mist rising from the shore. But something was strange. No voices. No footsteps. No men. Jason narrowed his eyes. Heracles frowned. Why is it so quiet? The Argonauts docked the ship carefully. As they stepped onto the sand, they were watched. Suddenly, dozens of women appeared, dressed in regal garments, armed with spears but not attacking. At their head stood Queen Hypsipyle, strong, beautiful, fierce. She greeted them with grace. "Welcome, travelers. You find yourselves on Lemnos, an island ruled by women alone." The Argonauts glanced at each other in confusion. No men. No soldiers. Why? Hypsipyle's eyes darkened. She revealed the truth. Once, the women of Lemnos were neglected by their husbands, who preferred foreign captives. In grief and fury, the women killed every man on the island. Jason and his companions froze. These women were not helpless. They were dangerous. However, instead of attacking, the women welcomed the Argonauts with kindness and admiration. The island was lonely. The women longed for company, for strength, for heroes. They invited the Argonauts to feast, to rest, to stay. At night, music filled the air. Wine flowed. Laughter echoed. One by one, the mighty Argonauts began to forget their quest. Even Heracles was offered luxury and comfort. But he refused. Heracles slammed his fist into a table. "Have you all forgotten why we sail? We are warriors, not lovers." Silence fell. His words struck like thunder. Jason stood up. His voice was calm, but firm. "Queen Hypsipyle, your island is beautiful, and your pain is great. But we cannot stay. Our destiny lies across the sea." Hypsipyle looked at Jason for a long moment. Then, she smiled. "You are different from most men, Jason. You are noble. Go, and may the gods protect you." The next morning, the women of Lemnos stood on the shore, watching as the Argo prepared to leave. Some cried. Some waved. Some stood in silence. Hypsipyle approached Jason one last time. "The world will try to sway you with comfort and temptation. But a true hero keeps his purpose." Jason bowed respectfully. "I will remember your strength." With that, the Argonauts boarded the ship and sailed away, hearts heavy, but focus restored. As Lemnos faded behind them, the heroes were quiet. They had not faced monsters or storms. But something far more dangerous. Distraction. Jason looked at his crew. "From this moment on, no matter what we face, we do not lose sight of the Golden Fleece." The Argonauts nodded. Their resolve strengthened. The true trials had only begun. The Argo cut through the waves like an arrow of destiny, its sails billowing beneath a gray, ominous sky. The sea had grown restless, and even the wind seemed to whisper warnings. The Argonauts, once filled with the glory of triumph after escaping the clashing rocks, now felt a growing unease. Their next destination was a land spoken of in fearful legends, a place where the sky itself had become a curse. On a misty hill overlooking the endless sea stood a frail, blind old man, Phineus, the cursed prophet of the gods. Once a wise king blessed with the gift of foresight, he had revealed too many divine secrets, and for that, Zeus punished him with a torment worse than death. Every day, when he tried to eat, monstrous creatures descended from the heavens, the harpies, winged horrors with the bodies of birds and the faces of twisted women. They stole his food, defiled what remained, and left him starving. When Jason and the Argonauts approached, the stench of decay lingered in the air. Phineus, hearing the footsteps of men, lifted his head with trembling hope. "Heroes," he said, voice weak. "If you free me from this torment, I will guide you to Colchis. I will reveal the secrets no map can show." Jason knelt beside him. "We are the Argonauts. We do not ignore suffering. Tell us how to help." Phineus trembled. "You cannot stop them, for they are relentless." Before he could finish, a chilling scream shattered the skies. The harpies had arrived. They swooped from the clouds like living storms, wings black as night, claws dripping with filth, their shrieks piercing the soul. They circled the table where food had been laid, tearing it apart with savage fury. Some Argonauts reached for their weapons, but the harpies were too swift, too unnatural. They moved like shadows between lightning strikes. "Stand back," shouted Zets and Calais, the Boread twins, sons of the north wind. As demigods of the air, born with wings upon their backs, they were the only ones who could match the harpies in the sky. With a powerful leap, the twins soared upward, wings unfurling with a thunderous gust. The sky erupted into chaos. Harpies and Boreads clashed in midair, a storm of feathers and fury. The harpies screamed curses. The Boreads drove them back with shining spears of divine bronze. The heavens trembled under the battle. The harpies tried to escape, but Jason, remembering the prophecy, shouted, "Drive them beyond the sea, but do not slay them. The gods forbid their death." High above the clouds, the Boreads cornered the harpies over a desolate island. Just as they prepared to strike, a radiant goddess appeared, Iris, the messenger of the gods, clothed in shimmering light. "Stop," Iris commanded gently. "These creatures, horrible as they are, serve the will of Zeus. Harm them no further." Zets and Calais lowered their weapons. "Then let them torment no more." Iris nodded. "I swear on the river Styx, they will never again afflict Phineus." With one final shriek, the harpies vanished into the stormy horizon, never to return. Down below, silence fell. Phineus wept, not from sorrow, but from overwhelming relief. For the first time in years. "I am free." Jason helped him to his feet. "A promise is a promise. Show us the way to Colchis." The old prophet turned his blind eyes toward the distant horizon. His voice grew low and grave. Your journey will not grow easier, heroes. Ahead lie deadly trials, seductive temptations, and choices that will tear at your souls. But I will guide you. He then revealed the greatest dangers yet to come, the wandering rocks, the blazing deserts, the venomous forces guarding the Golden Fleece, and the wrath of a king who trusts no one. But remember this, Phineas warned. You cannot claim the Golden Fleece alone. You will need help, from someone unexpected. Someone dangerous. Jason frowned. Who? Phineas answered with a troubled whisper. A princess with the power of the gods, and a heart bound to darkness. Medea. The name lingered in the air like a prophecy. The Argonauts exchanged uneasy glances. The path ahead had never felt more uncertain. Yet the Argo sailed forward, toward destiny. The morning after the harpies were driven away, the air felt lighter, as if a curse had finally lifted. The Argonauts gathered around Phineas, who sat with calm dignity beneath the rising sun. Though blind, his eyes seemed to stare into something far beyond mortal sight. Listen well, he said. For the sea ahead is treacherous, and even heroes may fall. The Argonauts leaned in with solemn attention. The first danger you will face, Phineas said, is a place where the sea itself comes alive. Two colossal cliffs, the wandering rocks, forever shift and crash together with unstoppable force. No ship has ever passed without being crushed into splinters. A murmur went through the crew. Even Heracles, mighty as he was, looked uneasy. Jason asked, how do we get through? You cannot, Phineas said quietly. Unless you are helped. He pointed toward the sky. Release a dove before entering. If it survives, row with all your strength. If it is destroyed, turn back, for fate has already spoken. The Argonauts exchanged glances. The test was simple, but its meaning was terrifying. Phineas wasn't finished. When you reach Colchis, he continued, King Aeetes will not give you the Golden Fleece willingly. He will test you. The old prophet's voice deepened. You must yoke two massive bronze bulls forged by Hephaestus, with hooves of iron and breath of fire. Only then may you plow the field of Ares. And that's all, one Argonaut joked nervously. Phineas shook his head, grave. No. In that field, you must sow dragon's teeth. From the earth will rise an army of warriors, born full-grown, armed, and murderous. The Argonauts fell silent. It sounded impossible. Even the bravest among them looked shaken. Only a fool or a god could survive such a trial, murmured Castor. Phineas turned his blind gaze toward Jason. Or a man, with the right ally. Jason frowned. You spoke of a princess. Phineas nodded slowly. Medea, daughter of King Aeetes. Blood of the gods. Priestess of Hecate. Mistress of magic. Mage, whispered Orpheus. A sorceress. Powerful beyond measure, Phineas said. And dangerous. She can help you tame the bulls, and survive the earthborn warriors. Jason crossed his arms. Then we will ask for her aid. Phineas shook his head. She will not help willingly. But. He hesitated, as though fearing his own words. The gods have already set her heart on a path that leads to you. Jason blinked. What do you mean? She will meet you, and love you, Phineas whispered. And for that love, she may betray everything, her father, her people, even herself. The Argonauts looked unsettled. This was no longer just adventure. This was the weaving of destiny. Phineas reached out and placed a trembling hand on Jason's shoulder. Remember this, Jason of Iolcus. The greatest trials are not always of strength, but of the heart. Jason bowed his head. I understand. Do you? Phineas asked softly. To claim the Golden Fleece, you may pay with more than blood." A heavy silence fell. Then, softly, Phineus smiled. "But take heart. You are not alone. You lead the greatest band of heroes the world has ever known. And the gods are watching." With grateful hearts, the Argonauts prepared to depart. They gifted Phineus food and shelter, promising his story would never be forgotten. As the Argo drifted away from shore, Phineus raised his hand in farewell. "You sail toward glory and tragedy," he called. "But your name, Jason, will echo through all time." The sea wind caught the sails. The heroes stood together at the bow. Ahead, miles of open water. Beyond that, Calchas, the Golden Fleece, and a girl whose love would change everything. Jason placed his hand on the railing. "We've faced storms. We've fought monsters. We will not turn back now." The Argo surged forward. Toward fate. Toward legend. Toward the moment that would define them all. The sea ahead grew strangely calm. Too calm. No wind, no waves, only a vast, eerie stillness. The Argonauts stood at the rails of the Argo, staring at the horizon, where the water shimmered like polished glass. But then they heard it. Boom. A distant, thunderous crash. Then another. Crash. The sea trembled, as if something colossal had struck it. Orpheus narrowed his eyes. "Is that thunder?" "No," said Heracles grimly. "That is stone meeting stone." The wandering rocks were near. The Sea of Doom. Ahead, mist parted to reveal two enormous cliffs, black and jagged, towering above the water like the jaws of a titan. They were alive, grinding, shifting, slamming into each other with unstoppable force. When they collided, the impact sent up towers of water and lightning like sparks. Even from a distance, the sound made the ship tremble. No mortal ship had ever survived this passage. The Argonauts were silent. Jason stepped forward. "Phineus told us how to pass. We follow his guidance." He reached into a cage and withdrew a white dove, fragile, yet hopeful. "Let this small life carry our fate," Jason whispered. The crew held their breath. Jason released the dove. It soared into the air, wings glowing in the sunlight as it darted between the cliffs. For a moment, it was beautiful. Then, boom! The cliffs slammed shut, missing the bird by a heartbeat. The shockwave nearly ripped the air apart. The men gasped, but the dove lived. It flew onward, disappearing into the sky beyond the rocks. A sign. A chance. Jason turned, eyes blazing. "Row!" Instantly, the Argonauts leaped to the oars, muscles straining as they pulled with everything they had. The Argo surged forward like an arrow. The cliffs began to part. A narrow opening. But already, the rocks were rumbling, preparing to crash again. Faster! Jason roared. Sweat poured down the heroes' faces. Veins bulged. The sea churned. Boom! The cliffs started to move. Boom! They turned inward. Boom! They were closing. "Heracles!" Jason shouted. The mighty hero stood, grabbed the side of the ship. And with a thunderous roar, pushed the Argo with his bare hands, adding his impossible strength to the oarsmen. The gap narrowed. 10 meters. 5. 3. Crayoaish. The cliffs slammed together. But the Argo was already through. The very tip of the stern was clipped, splintering the wood. But the ship survived. Silence. Then. Cheers. Screams. Laughter. The heroes collapsed in exhaustion, but their eyes burned with triumph. They had done the impossible. Above them, a sound like rushing wind filled the air. They looked up. The goddess Athena hovered over the Argo, glowing with silver light. "Your courage has moved even Olympus," she said, smiling. "The sea will no longer threaten you with these rocks. I will fix them in place, forever." With a wave of her hand, the cliffs froze, unmoving. The curse was ended. The passage was safe, for all future sailors. Then she looked at Jason. "Your journey has only begun. But know this, son of Ezin." She leaned close, her voice soft with both warning and pride. "The gods are watching you." And with a flash, she vanished. The sea beyond the rocks was calm once more, blue, open, inviting. Jason stood at the bow, wind in his hair, determination in his heart. Colchis was near. The Golden Fleece awaited. But so did a king who would not yield. And a princess whose heart, once set aflame, would burn the world. Jason whispered to himself. No turning back. The Argo sailed onward. Toward glory. Toward love. Toward destiny. At long last, the sea gave way to foreign shores. The Argo cut through calm waters as the sun rose, bathing everything in golden light. Before them lay the eastern edge of the world. Colchis. A land of mystery. Of magic. Of danger. Its coastline shimmered with black volcanic sands and misty forests, where ancient secrets whispered through the trees. Beyond, distant mountains burned red under the morning sun, like the embers of a sleeping dragon. And deep within this kingdom, the Golden Fleece waited. As they approached the harbor, the Argonauts saw ships with black sails, soldiers in bronze armor, and towering statues of strange gods. "This is no ordinary kingdom," whispered Orpheus. Heracles studied the shore. "This place smells of power and pride." Jason stood tall. "We have come too far to turn back." The Argo docked. The moment Jason stepped onto the soil of Colchis, he felt it. A presence. Like unseen eyes watching from every shadow. They were escorted to a vast palace of black stone and gold, its walls carved with scenes of conquest. Torches lined the halls, casting long flickering shadows. At the end of the throne room sat King Aedes. Tall. Stern. Eyes like burning coals. A man who ruled with both power and fear. His robe shimmered with threads of gold, yet his expression was cold as iron. When Jason approached, Aedes did not rise. "So," he said slowly, voice as deep as thunder. "You are the one who dares to claim the Golden Fleece, my kingdom's most sacred treasure." Jason bowed respectfully. "Not out of greed, great king. But to restore my rightful throne. Grant me the fleece, and I will leave in peace." Silence. Then Aedes laughed. A sharp, cruel sound. "You want me to simply hand over a symbol of divine power? One blessed by the gods themselves?" His eyes narrowed. "No. If you want the fleece, you must earn it." The king stood, voice echoing through the hall. "You will face 3 trials. Complete them, and the Golden Fleece is yours. Fail, and your bones will hang at the gates of my city." The Argonauts tensed, hands on their weapons. But Jason nodded. "Name your trials." Aedes smiled, a predator's smile. "First," he said, "you will yoke my fire-breathing bulls, forged in the forges of Hephaestus. Then, you will plow the field of Ares. After that, you will sow the field with dragon's teeth, and battle whatever emerges." The hall fell silent. Everyone knew. Not even a god could survive such tasks. Yet Jason did not flinch. "I accept." Behind him, his crew trembled with pride and fear. Aedes leaned back in his throne, satisfied. "Tomorrow at dawn, the trials begin. If you die, your men serve me as slaves." Jason bowed once more. The fate of their entire journey hung in the balance. Little did they know. Someone else was watching. In the shadows. She saw him. From behind a marble pillar, a pair of eyes watched Jason walk away. Eyes filled with curiosity. With wonder. With danger. This was no ordinary woman. This was Medea, daughter of Aeetes. Princess of Colchis. High priestess of Hecate. A sorceress of terrifying power. The gods stirred. Fate awakened. In that single moment, when her gaze fell upon Jason, everything changed. A soft voice whispered in her mind. Help him. Medea's heart trembled, for the first time in her life. Night before the trials. The Argonauts gathered in their quarters, planning desperately. Those bulls, said Heracles, their breath melts stone. No shield can withstand them. And dragon's teeth, said Castor. Warriors born from the ground. Endless. Tricks, muttered Orpheus. This is not strength, this is cruelty. Jason stood quietly. We didn't come this far to surrender. I will face the trials. Heracles grabbed his shoulder. Jason, this is suicide. Jason met his gaze. Calm. Unbroken. I would rather die with honor, than live in fear. The room fell silent. And then, soft footsteps. A shadow entered. A woman, cloaked in moonlight, eyes like glowing amber. Medea. Jason, she whispered. Everyone turned, hands on weapons. But she raised a hand. I can help you. Jason stared. Why? Her lips trembled, even she didn't fully understand. Because, the gods have chosen you. And perhaps, so have I. Jason stepped forward. Their eyes met. In that moment, two destinies intertwined. Fire and wind. Magic and courage. Love and ruin. For Medea would not just help Jason win the Golden Fleece. She would change the course of his life forever. Trial 1, the fire-breathing bulls. The sun had not yet risen, but the air trembled with tension. Jason stood at the edge of the field of Ares, mist swirling around him like ghosts. In the distance, he could see them. Two massive bronze bulls, forged in the divine forges of Hephaestus, the god of fire. Their bodies glowed faintly like molten metal. Steam hissed from their nostrils. Every step they took shook the earth. And when they roared, flames erupted from their mouths, scorching the ground black. Even the bravest Argonauts stepped back. These are not beasts, whispered Orpheus. They are living furnaces. Jason's heart pounded. But then, a gentle hand touched his arm. Medea. Clad in a dark cloak, her hair wild in the wind, eyes glowing with hidden power. She held out a small vial of shimmering golden oil. This is the charm of Prometheus, she said. Rub it on your skin and armor. No fire will harm you until sunset. Jason stared, astonished. Why are you helping me? Medea hesitated. For reasons I cannot yet say. Jason nodded. Thank you. As she turned to leave, he gently took her hand. Medea. I will not forget this. For the first time, she smiled. The ground vibrated as the bulls approached, chains rattling, eyes blazing like suns. King Aeetes sat on a high platform, watching with cruel amusement. Begin, he shouted. The chains were released. The bulls charged. Boom. 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 Each step a thunderclap. Flames exploded from their mouths. Whoosh. The crowd gasped. But Jason did not burn. He walked straight through the inferno, golden light shimmering across his skin like a god of flame. The Argonauts stared in disbelief. He's untouched. Is he blessed by the gods? Even Aeetes narrowed his eyes. Jason lunged forward and grabbed the first bull by the horn. The ground cracked beneath its strength. It tried to throw him. Heat blasted from its mouth. Its hooves tore trenches into the soil. But Jason held fast. Muscles burning. Teeth clenched. Heart blazing with determination. With a mighty shout. Yah! He yoked the first bull. The crowd gasped. Then the second bull roared and charged. Jason spun, dodging a jet of fire, and caught its horn with the strength of Olympus itself. Heracles grinned. That's it, Jason. With one final surge. Slam. The second bull was yoked. The impossible was possible. Sweat dripped down his brow as Jason took hold of the plow. The bull stamped and snorted, ready to unleash fire. Jason raised the reins. Move. The fiery monsters obeyed. The ground trembled as they pulled the plow through the cursed earth. Smoke rose from the soil. Sparks exploded with every step. The air tasted like ash and iron. But Jason did not stop. Row by row, he plowed the field. The crowd fell silent. Even the king leaned forward, expression dark and unreadable. By the time the last line was drawn across the earth, the sun was setting. Jason unhooked the bulls. And stood, victorious. Aedes glared. He had expected fear. Failure. Death. Not triumph. The king stood, voice cold. You have done well, Jason. But the trials are not finished. He raised a hand. And servants approached with a bronze helmet. Jason frowned. What is that? Aedes smiled wickedly. Dragon's teeth. The Argonauts stiffened. Medea's eyes widened. Jason felt the chill of true danger. Plant them into the field you have plowed, the king said. And then, face what rises. Jason stared at the sharp, jagged teeth inside the helmet. Magic. Ancient. Deadly. He knew this was the most dangerous test yet. But he stood tall. I will sow the teeth. The crowd murmured. Orpheus whispered, Jason, warriors will rise from the earth, invincible soldiers made of bone and rage. Jason looked at Medea. And she looked afraid. Come to me tonight, she whispered. There is one more secret you must know. Jason nodded. He had survived fire. But now, he would face warriors born from death. And beyond that, the dragon itself. The path to the Golden Fleece had only just begun. The second trial, the Earthborn warriors, Dragon's Teeth soldiers. When the fiery oxen were finally tamed and the field had been plowed, the Argonauts allowed themselves a breath of relief, but Jason knew it was not over. King Aedes stepped forward with a cold smile. Anyone can plow a field, he said. But can you make it live? From a golden chest, he revealed a collection of sharp, glimmering objects, the fabled dragon's teeth, the remains of a monstrous serpent slain by Ares himself. Each tooth pulsed with ancient magic. Plant them, Aedes commanded. And face what grows. Medea's eyes widened. This was the most dangerous trial of all. She rushed to Jason and whispered urgently. When the teeth are sown, they will rise as earthborn warriors, unstoppable soldiers of stone and bone. You cannot defeat them by strength. You must trick them. Jason nodded. He trusted her. He scattered the dragon's teeth across the freshly plowed earth. For a moment, silence. Then the ground began to tremble. Boom. 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 From the soil, armored hands burst upward. Skulls surfaced next. Entire bodies of skeletal warriors climbed out of the earth, forged from magic and hatred. Their eyes glowed with an eerie golden fire, and their bronze weapons gleamed in the twilight. A full army, born from the ground, turned to Jason with murderous intent. The earth shook under their march. Even the Argonauts stepped back in horror. Jason stood alone. Just as the army charged, Jason shouted and hurled a massive stone into their midst. The Earthborn warriors paused. Every skull turned toward the stone. Then, as one, they roared, and attacked each other. Medea's plan worked. The Earthborn were filled with rage but not with loyalty. Whoever struck first became their new target. Soon, the battlefield erupted into chaos, warriors tearing each other apart in a frenzy of steel and dust. Jason watched calmly as they destroyed themselves. When the last warrior crumbled back into the dirt, the field was silent again. Jason stood victorious. The Argonauts cheered. Medea exhaled in relief. But high above them, King Aedes clenched his fists in fury. Jason had succeeded where no mortal ever had, and now, nothing stood between him and the Golden Fleece. Or so he thought. Because Aedes had one final move, one last, deadly trap. The final trial, guarding the Golden Fleece, the serpent of Colchis. Night had fallen over Colchis. The flames of the brazen bull still smoldered in the distance, and the ground where the dragon's teeth had been sown remained scarred and broken. Jason stood amidst the silence of the sacred grove, his heart pounding. This was it. The final trial. The most feared of all. Before him, deep within the shadows of the ancient forest, hung the prize of his entire journey. The Golden Fleece. It shimmered with an otherworldly brilliance, glowing like liquid sunlight draped over a great oak tree blessed by the gods. Its radiance cast rippling, golden light across the dark grove, illuminating the mist that curled around its roots. But the light also revealed something else. Something massive. Something alive. Wrapped around the tree, coiled like living night, lay the great serpent of Colchis. Not an ordinary serpent, a primordial guardian, older than kingdoms, blessed by the gods to never sleep. Its scales were deep emerald and obsidian, glistening under the fleece's glow. Its eyes burned with molten fire, unblinking, full of ageless hunger. Every breath it took shook the air, like thunder rolling beneath the earth. Jason swallowed. This was no bull he could wrestle. No warrior he could outsmart. This was myth incarnate. A guardian of divine power. And he had to face it. "Do not move," Medea whispered from behind him. Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she was about to do. Even the slightest sound will awaken its full wrath. Jason glanced at her. Medea, the princess who had betrayed her father, her kingdom, her very blood, for him. She clutched a vial of glowing purple liquid, a powerful enchantment of deep slumber. But using such magic against a god-blessed creature was dangerous, perhaps even forbidden. "If this fails," Jason murmured, "go. Save yourself." Medea looked at him with fierce eyes. "I would rather face the serpent than live in a world where you fall." For a moment, the world grew quiet. Then she stepped forward. The serpent stirred. Its colossal body shifted, scales scraping against bark with a sound like grinding stone. Its head slowly rose, higher, and higher, towering above them, eyes igniting with blazing wrath. Jason reached for his sword. But Medea lifted her hands, chanting in a forgotten language, ancient and melodic. The air trembled as magic poured from her voice. The vial in her hand glowed brighter, brighter, as though it captured the light of a dying star. The serpent lunged. Its jaws opened wide, fangs like swords, venom dripping like acid, striking with the speed of lightning. Whoosh! Medea hurled the potion. Sha-ah! The glowing liquid burst across the serpent's head like falling starlight. Steam erupted. The serpent recoiled, roaring, a horrible, earth-shaking cry that rattled the trees of the grove. Its body thrashed violently, tearing at the ground. The earth split. Roots snapped. The sky shook. Jason shielded his face from the storm of dust and debris. Would it work? Or had they only enraged the beast? Slowly, impossibly, the thrashing began to slow. The roars faded to harsh, rasping breaths. The great coils loosened. The burning eyes dimmed. Until finally, the serpent collapsed. Its massive head crashed against the earth, golden light reflecting across its scales. It slept. For the first time in centuries, it slept. Jason and Medea stood in silence, hearts pounding, sweat on their brows. They had done the impossible. Jason stepped toward the Golden Fleece. Up close, it was even more breathtaking than legend described. Every strand shimmered like pure sunlight, like the very essence of divinity woven into wool. Warmth radiated from it, life itself, humming through the air. Jason reached out a trembling hand and laid his fingers upon the Golden Fleece. A wave of power surged through him. Strength, clarity, majesty, hope. This was more than a symbol, it was destiny. He lifted it from the tree. As he did, the entire grove seemed to brighten, as though the world itself recognized the new bearer of its life. Jason turned to Medea. "We have it," he whispered. She smiled softly. "Then now, our true journey begins." Because the trials were over. But the escape from Colchis had yet to begin. And King Aeetes would unleash all the wrath of a betrayed father and a furious king. The Argonauts would soon face the greatest danger of all, not magic, not monsters, but the unstoppable force of vengeance. The sea of trials awaited. Jason held the Golden Fleece in his hands, the shimmering prize that had cost them sweat, blood, and impossible courage. For a moment, the grove was silent, as if the world itself was stunned by what he had done. But Medea's breath quickened. "They will know," she whispered. "My father, he will come." And he did. King Aeetes' furious roar echoed through the night like thunder. The alarm bells of Colchis rang out over the city. Torches burst to life on the walls. Soldiers poured into the sacred grove, weapons drawn. Treason. Bring them to me. Jason, Medea, and the Argonauts sprinted back toward the Argo. The sacred forest, once serene, now felt like a twisted maze of roots and shadows. Branches whipped against their faces as they ran. Behind them, the drums of Colchis pounded like a war heartbeat. "Faster," shouted Atlanta. "They're gaining on us." The ground shook. From the darkness emerged warriors in dark bronze, elite guards of Colchis. They formed a wall of spears. Jason's heart pounded, but his crew did not hesitate. Argonauts. To arms. Steel clashed. Spears shattered. The forest exploded into chaos. The crew fought desperately, buying Jason and Medea every precious second. In the middle of battle, their eyes met, equal parts fear and unshakable trust. "We're almost there," Medea cried. "The Argo is near the shore." But something worse arrived. King Aeetes himself. He rode in a chariot of black iron, pulled by fire-breathing steeds. His fury lit the night like lightning. Behind him came sorcerers, chanting spells that made the trees twist and the wind howl. "Medea," he shouted. "Daughter of Colchis, what have you done?" The world froze. Medea trembled. Jason stepped protectively in front of her. "She chose her own path," he said firmly. Aeetes' eyes blazed. "Then you will die together." He raised his staff, magic crackled in the air, ready to strike. Medea stepped forward. "No, father. I will stop you." She raised her hands and unleashed a blast of sorcery. The sky erupted in violet light. Thunder crashed. The very air trembled as father and daughter clashed in terrifying magical fury. "Go!" Medea screamed at Jason. "Get the crew to the ship. I'll hold him." "I'm not leaving you," he shouted back. "You must." Her voice broke. "Trust me." With a heavy heart, Jason led the Argonauts through the chaos. They burst through the trees and saw the Argo waiting in the moonlit water. "Row," shouted Hercules. "Row now, or we die." The crew leapt aboard and pushed off. Oars hit the sea in perfect rhythm. But it wasn't over. King Aeetes burst from the forest, eyes blazing, riding the waves on a chariot of fire. His fleet launched from the harbor behind him, dozens of warships armed for slaughter. "Medea," shouted Jason desperately. "We need you." A moment of silence. Then, Medea appeared at the shore, breathless, tears in her eyes, magic still crackling in her fingertips. She leapt aboard, collapsing in Jason's arms. "They will chase us to the ends of the earth," she whispered. Jason nodded. "Then we sail faster than fate." Behind them, King Aeetes bellowed into the night. "I will hunt you down." The sea exploded into pursuit. Flaming arrows rained across the water. Thunder roared overhead. The Argo raced through the stormy waves, the Golden Fleece glowing at its bow like a beacon of destiny. The Argonauts had succeeded in their quest. But now they had to survive the wrath of a king. And for the first time, Jason wondered if winning the Golden Fleece was only the beginning of a far greater tragedy. The Argo sailed across the endless sea, cutting through waves like a blade of destiny. The sun rose behind them, casting golden light on the heroes who had survived the impossible. The Golden Fleece shimmered proudly at the bow of the ship, proof of their triumph, the symbol of kingship and glory. But not all hearts on board felt victorious. Jason stood at the deck, the wind in his hair, eyes fixed on the horizon. They were finally returning home, to Iolcus. To claim his throne from King Peleus. To fulfill the promise he made long ago. To become the hero the world would remember. Yet deep inside, he felt a quiet unease. Beside him stood Medea. Powerful. Loyal. Fierce. The woman who had sacrificed everything, her home, her family, her identity, just to be by his side. She gazed at him with unwavering devotion. "For you," she whispered, "I would betray the world." Jason took her hand, but said nothing. The long journey home. The Argonauts celebrated, their laughter echoing across the sea. They had conquered clashing rocks, harpies, fire-breathing bulls, earth-born warriors, and even the wrath of a king. Surely now, fate would reward them. Right? But fate is never so kind. Storms rose. Winds shifted. The gods grew silent. Even the sea felt heavier. Some whispered that Zeus was displeased by Medea's betrayal of her father. Others believed the gods were testing Jason one final time. At last, the Argo docked at the shores of Iolcus. People gathered in awe. They stared at the Golden Fleece, shining like the sun itself. Jason stepped onto the land that was once his home. His heart pounded. This was the moment. He would finally confront King Peleus. He would reclaim his birthright. He would become king. But King Peleus was not afraid. He was older now, but still cunning. When Jason presented the Golden Fleece and demanded the throne, Peleus only smiled and said, "Do you think a piece of wool makes you a ruler? Power is not taken by glory, but by blood." The court fell silent. Jason hesitated. Would he fight? Start a war? Kill the man who stole everything from him? But before he could speak, Medea stepped forward. Her eyes glowed with dangerous calm. She had given Jason everything. And she would give him the throne as well, no matter the cost. "Leave Peleus to me," she whispered. Jason felt a chill. That night, Medea performed a ritual, ancient, forbidden, powerful. She called upon spirits of decay and rebirth. She lured King Peleus with promises of immortality. She convinced his own daughters to help in the ritual. They trusted her. They trusted magic. But magic born of vengeance, always demands blood. King Peleus died by the hands of his own children, tricked by Medea's plan. Iolcus fell into chaos. Jason stared in horror. "Yes, the throne is yours," Medea said softly, "I did this for you." Jason looked at her, the woman who saved him 1,000 times. And realized she was more terrifying than any monster they had faced. Jason had the Golden Fleece. He had avenged his father. He had removed the tyrant. He had everything he wanted. So why did it feel like the beginning of something darker? The people of Iolcus feared Medea. They whispered of witchcraft, murder, curses. Jason felt the weight of destiny once more. He had not escaped his challenges. Perhaps, he had only exchanged them for greater ones. And in the distance, the gods watched in silence. Because heroes may win glory, but true legends are born from what happens after the victory. The Argo finally returned to Iolcus in triumph, carrying the Golden Fleece and the heroes who had survived countless trials. The people cheered Jason's name, calling him the savior, the rightful king, the greatest hero of the age. And beside him stood Medea, the woman who had risked everything for love. At first, their love burned like a sacred flame, powerful, unbreakable, destiny itself. Medea had betrayed her father, abandoned her home, and stained her hands with blood, all for Jason. Jason had sworn before gods and mortals that he would love her forever, that she would be his queen at his side. But the world of mortals is full of ambition and treachery. When Jason presented the Golden Fleece to King Peleus, the usurper trembled. The prophecy had come true. Jason had survived. His destiny had returned. But Peleus still refused to give up the throne. Jason, bound by honor and law, could not simply kill him. He was a hero, he needed justice. And so Medea acted. Using her divine knowledge of magic and deception, Medea tricked Peleus' own daughters into killing him, believing they were restoring his youth. The spell was false. Peleus died. The people recoiled in fear. Jason and Medea were exiled from Iolcus. They had won the Golden Fleece, but lost their home. The couple found refuge in Corinth, where King Creon welcomed them. For a time, they knew peace. They had children. They built a family. Medea, once feared, became respected. But heroes are rarely satisfied with peace. Jason still dreamed of glory, of power, of a kingdom. And then, an opportunity came. King Creon offered Jason something irresistible. "Marry my daughter, Princess Glossy. Become the next king of Corinth." It was everything Jason had ever wanted. Except for one thing, he already had a wife. Jason told Medea it was for their children's future. That she should understand. That she should step aside. Medea stared at him, her husband, her love, the man she had sacrificed her soul for. "Everything I have done, I did for you." Jason turned away. Ambition had become stronger than love. Medea's heart shattered. And in that moment, something inside her broke. The gods watched in silence. Hera, who once guided Jason, now turned her gaze away in disappointment. Even Aphrodite, who had ignited Medea's passion, whispered sadly, "Love can create gods, or destroy them." Medea was no longer the girl who helped Jason out of love. She had become something far more powerful. Betrayal awakened her true nature. A sorceress of divine blood. Granddaughter of the sun priestess of Hecate. She would not weep. She would not beg. She would show the world what happens when love is broken. Jason celebrated his upcoming royal marriage. Corinth prepared for a grand wedding. The people cheered his name again. But in the shadows, Medea was silent. Too silent. The air grew heavy. The gods held their breath. For every legend has its turning point. And the love story of Jason and Medea was about to become one of the darkest tragedies in Greek mythology. Years passed after Medea vanished into the shadows, leaving Jason alone with guilt and regret. The hero once praised by gods and men was no longer celebrated. The Argo, his mighty ship, once shining with glory, now lay abandoned, rotting on the shores like a forgotten memory. Jason wandered the world, a king without a kingdom, a hero without purpose. Wherever he went, whispers followed. He betrayed love. He abandoned the woman who saved him. The gods have turned away. Jason tried to rebuild his life, but nothing could erase the weight of his choices. He had faced monsters, storms, kings, and curses, but the hardest battle was within his own heart. He returned to the ruins of the Argo, the ship that had once carried the dreams of heroes. Its sacred wood, once blessed by Athena, was cracked and splintered. Time had taken everything from him, except regret. As he sat beneath the decaying hull, memories flooded his mind. The day he first stepped onto the Argo. The cheers of the Argonauts. The fire in Medea's eyes when she saved him. The moment he lost everything. He whispered into the wind. Was it worth it? The glory, the crown, the throne. The wind gave no answer. Jason, weary and old, leaned against the Argo's keel. The last piece of the past he still held dear. And in that moment, fate arrived. With a thunderous crack, the ancient wood collapsed. The sacred timber, once carved by the gods, came crashing down. The very ship that made him a hero became the instrument of his death. Jason, the once glorious leader of the Argonauts, died alone, beneath the memory of his greatest triumph. Yet in his final breath, he understood. True glory is not in how high you rise, but in what you sacrifice for those you love. His story became a warning whispered through the ages. A hero who conquered the impossible, but could not conquer fate, or his own heart. But the tale of Jason is only one chapter in the vast treasury of myth. For in the same age, another name thundered louder than the storm, mightier than the tempest, and more tragic than any other hero. A man born from the blood of Zeus. A warrior cursed by fate. A hero forced to face 12 impossible labors to redeem his very soul. He did not only battle monsters. He defied the gods themselves. Each of his victories shook the heavens and the earth. He is Heracles. And his journey will become the greatest legend in all of human history. Episode 9, Heracles and the 12 Labors. Are you ready to witness the might of the greatest hero in Greek mythology?